What's up, everyone? Welcome back. I know it's been a long time. John and I kind of let the holidays get to us and we've been on relaxation mode a little bit. But today I wanted to talk to you guys about why you can't just adopt. If you've been struggling with infertility like we have, I'm sure tons of people have asked you inappropriate questions, including, why don't you just adopt? Wouldn't that be easier? There's tons of children out there waiting for homes. So we wanted to speak a little bit about adoption in general and some of the research that we've done. And then I also wanted to give you an update on where we are in our process and what's up with us. So as of right now, John and I have done 2 consultations for adoption, which involves talking to an agency about their process and procedure and finding out if they feel like we're a good fit to adopt with them as well. Consultations can cost $100 depending on what agency you work with, or they can be free for certain agencies. After the consultation, there's a bunch of other steps if adoption is something you decide you actually want to do. But things I want you guys to know is there's a couple different types of adoption. There's domestic infant adoption. This means that you are matching with a birth mother, and at any point, this is any point during their pregnancy. They can be a couple months pregnant or they could be delivering in a couple days. You don't know what time this could be, but typically you take the baby home from the hospital with domestic infant adoption. There is fostering to adopt. This is where children have been removed from their home for different reasons. It could be that they were subject to neglect or abuse, or that their parents have passed away for some reason, or various other reasons. These children tend to be a little bit older. They can be infants, but it's typically not right after birth. It's a couple months out when a social worker or someone thought that that child wasn't fit to be in a home and removed them from that situation. A lot of foster kids are part of a sibling set, so that's something else you have to think about if you're willing to adopt an entire family versus just one child. And then there's foreign or international adoption. This is when people adopt children from other countries. Typically people, I think, have the idea that this is somehow easier when it's really not. There's a lot of policies for international adoption, and every country has their own set of criteria you have to meet. And these children, when you do adopt children from other countries, they tend to be a little bit older by the time they come to you. So you may match with them when they're infants, but it does take a good 14 to 18 months sometimes to get everything to go through. So they tend to be toddlers by the time they come over to the United States for their adoption period. These kids also tend to be special needs depending on what country you're adopting from. Most countries still will try to adopt out their children to other families in their own country before they allow an international adoption. So this leaves older children and children with special needs for families in the United States who are wanting to adopt. They also tend to have issues, sometimes bonding, since they are in orphanages with large populations and aren't getting necessarily the one-on-one care that you would expect a child to have here in the United States. So those are the 3 main types of adoption. The other thing I wanted to mention is, while people think there are tons of kids out there waiting to be adopted, it's actually kind of the opposite. If you're doing foster to adopt, there are tons of kids in foster care, but if you're looking for domestic infant adoption, there are actually more families who want to adopt than there are available children at this time. In the 50s, it was kind of a big deal if you got pregnant before you were married. So a lot of these women were forced to give their children up for adoption. Nowadays, it's very common for women to decide to parent their child as a single mother. I mean, I know tons of single mothers, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's very common. So if you think about it, 1 in 8 women, or 1 in 8 couples struggle with infertility, but not 1 in 8 women decide to give their kid up for adoption. So there's usually a pretty long waiting list when you decide to adopt, and it takes an average of about 14 to 18 months to actually be matched with a birth mother and move forward with the adoption process. So get that idea out of your head that there are tons of babies out there waiting for all of those of us struggling with infertility to adopt. If all of us struggling with infertility adopted, these waiting lists would be even longer. The next thing that a lot of these places ask you to do is an orientation. You come in, you get some more information about the agency. You also have to do homework, like reading tons and tons of books. I think the one agency gave us a list that was like, what, 2 pages long of books and videos that we were supposed to read. And after that, if you decide to continue the process, you have to do a home study. A home study involves someone coming to your home, interviewing you and your partner, and deciding if they think you're ready to adopt and if you're fit to be parents. They check out your home to make sure there's no big issues in the home. They ask you your preference and what you're looking for in adoption. Or do you want a Caucasian only baby? Do you want any race? Are you okay with male or females? Are you okay with drug abuse? Are you okay with children that have been a product of a rape? These are things you don't even think about before you talk to these agencies. But there's a lot you need to consider and make decisions on before you can move forward. They also ask for your driver's license, your birth certificate, your marriage license. They want you to get a background check. You have to get a physical exam. There are so many other things that you have to do. It's a very, very long list, and it takes several months for this home study to be completed. So you got to think about how long that alone takes, and that you're not even in your like 14-month waiting period until all of this is done, your home study and everything. So after your home study, if you pass, if you decide that's what you're doing, if you pass the home study, then you can make a profile. So this means picking out tons of pictures of you and your partner, writing out why it is that you've decided you want to adopt, and then making things that you're kind of trying to sell yourself, making you guys look the best that you can. And then once your profile is completed, you wait. You wait for your agency to show your profile to different birth mothers that may be a good fit for you. That totally takes a long time, and it's after going through that, there's still no guarantee. So you may be picked by a birth mother, and then that birth mother may change her mind at some point. It may be right at the beginning, she may pick you, and then a couple weeks later change her mind and decide to parent, which there's nothing wrong with that. Good for them for deciding that they want to parent their child. You can't be mad at that person for deciding that parenting the child is best for them, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to hurt you waiting for a baby, waiting to adopt and have that opportunity to become parents. So that's adoption in a nutshell, the process to even before you are matched with a baby. So as you can see, it's not as easy as many people think it is. So you should ask someone why don't they just adopt? There is no just when it comes to adopting. Adoption is a huge decision, and it shouldn't be made lightly. It should be made after lots of consideration if that's something that's right for you and your spouse. So that's that. Anyway, where does that leave John and I? What are we doing right now? What is our process like? Currently, as I mentioned, we have met with 2 different adoption agencies, but we haven't 100% decided if that is the path for us just yet. We are also going through another round of IVF. Currently, we're doing a frozen transfer in, 2 weeks, I think? So I am back on the hormones. I just started my progesterone injections 2 days ago, and we are going through the motions again. I appreciate any prayers or positive vibes that you guys can give us as we move forward. We have insurance coverage for these frozen transfers, so we want to use them while we can before we move forward with anything else. But I think that's really all I wanted to talk about today. If you guys have any questions, please comment below. We appreciate all of you guys for following us, and it means the world to us. So thank you again for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.